welcome to the morning briefing here at Core Castle. I'm joined by Matt Brown, market commentator. Morning to you, Matt.
Good morning.
Let's kick off without further ado. The market headlines this morning. Central banks in focus as ECB meets and Fed's Mr. Fischer resigns. So let's kick off. Mr. Draghi. Is he going to actually say anything today?
No, he's probably going to try and talk down the euro. And it's don't expect any surprises. Don't expect any, as we saw in Canada, interest rate hikes, etc. We're not going to see that. I think the market is looking for Draghi to indicate what he's going to do with regards to QE and the book. Debt reduction or reduce the balance book that they have. So again, it's going to be those key phrases in detail, and look out for that in the press. The tone, indeed. Bit of a shock to the market. Fischer resigning.
He's number two, right?
Number two. Maybe earmarked to take over from Yellen. But what does that mean? He stepped down for personal reasons. It looks as if Yellen is not going to be around beyond.
Her tenure is February 18.
Yes, exactly. And I don't think she's in favour with Trump, and we may look for a more dovish.
Sounds like Goldman Sachs are going to be taking over the world.
Indeed. And elsewhere in the US, the debt ceiling has been pushed back or raised for the next 3 months, whether that goes through or not, but that was seen as slight positive, and the market's actually quite liked it. But I think the overall theme is the Hurricane Irma and that coming in, and that will probably draw a lot of focus for traders.
Understood. Let's move on to the FTSE one to watch today. Imperial Brands.
Yes, rebranded from Imperial Tobacco.
I had to double check that today.
Exactly. So it's not Imperial Leather, it's Imperial Brands Tobacco. They have sold a stake in Logista, however you want to pronounce it. In Spain and Portugal. This means they can return some money to shareholders through share buybacks and reduce debt. So it's an interesting play. I mean, defensive stocks, we always looked at tobacco stocks as defensive. If we do see a sell-off in the market, will they improve? But the overall global outlook for tobacco stocks is not positive, certainly in Europe and the States. Their markets now are Asian. These are new markets and with legislation, tax, etc. But this was a good move, and this will appease shareholders in the meantime. They're getting a bit of revenue back in the form of a share buyback. So the stock's up about 2% today. Understood.
Good analysis. Right, let's talk about AIM one to watch today. Boohoo.com. This is fashion again. My favourite subject.
And internet as well. So Boohoo.com, internet-based fashion business based in Manchester. They have today announced they've recruited, and bear with me, my French is terrible, Pierre-Marie Jean-Luc Couler has joined. He's an internet entrepreneur, so this is a big win for Boohoo on their board. He originally set up Phone House, which was taken over by Carphone Warehouse, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. But he knows his business, he knows the internet, and certainly that's good for an online-based company in fashion. And Boohoo have been around for a few years and performed very well in the market. You look at ASOS, it's following a similar model. They're breaking into the States as well. So stock to look out for. Good win for them today.
Understood. Let's talk currencies. Euro, Great British Pound, the cross 91.57. Pretty dull. Cable 130.49.
Yeah, interesting. A few commentators now saying, look, 131 could be the next level for the pound. Again, we're looking at dollar weakness, so that trade feels back on. It was all a bit scary when we were back below 130, 129. People talking it down to 120. Now, I think we've had the bulls on previously on the show talking up to 140.
And the really wise people said keep away from this market. It's too difficult, which is definitely my case. Right, let's kick off with broker updates. Today, RBC, company Dixon's Carphone, new recommendation, an outperform. And the pre-rec was top pick. I'm not sure what an outperform for top pick.
That's a downgrade.
Is maybe broker language.
Averaging down, tail between their legs, no longer a top pick. We've reviewed it. Maybe they're seeing value after we saw the potentially profits warning. Let's be honest. Maybe just reducing that. It's one to look out for. I'm not a big fan of Carphone Dixon's or Dixon's Carphone as a stock. Interesting one to look at.
Understood. Right, the core number for the day, 100. Are we talking darts or something?
No, it's the FTSE 100. So Theresa May and the UK government have approached the FTSE 100 companies saying, will you sign a letter to back us in Brexit? It's almost a vote of confidence from business, and I'm sure a lot of businesses will not want to do it, feel as if they're strong-armed into doing this. But it's key that the government needs the city backing when it comes to Brexit negotiations, and that's a big tool, and it will strengthen their case. Now, it was interesting, I was speaking to a chap the other week about the Corporation of London. Now, there could be a case that London itself, or the City of London, could look to vote with all the livery companies, and you look at, I wouldn't say like the Vatican or maybe more of a Swiss canton, but all the Corporation of London, the livery companies could say, we've got to protect our interest, and that's what they've always done, and may actually say, look, we don't want to be part of Europe. We want to be separate. We want to raise our own taxes, or we want to be part of Europe because that's a bigger part. But it's an interesting one to look at. And a small fact, you need to be a member of a fellow or whatever it is of one of the livery companies or the City Corporation of London companies to actually be allowed to drink in the square mile.
Didn't know that.
Sign up.
It sounds like an Ealing comedy situation. Right, let's wrap up today's economic calendar in terms of the EU ECB rate decision, press conference at 1:30, and in the States, as it's Thursday, the initial and continuing jobless claims. So all eyes on Mr. Draghi. We've never said that before. Matt, final thoughts?
All eyes and ears on Mr. Draghi and what he has to say today.
Very good. Thank you very much.